Welcome to Live, Let Thrive, a podcast about the Airbnb life, the share economy, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Micah and Steve.
Hello, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Live, Let Thrive. Coming at you from Fort Worth, Texas, and Arlington, Texas, when Micah hops on. This is episode 331 of your favorite short-term, mid-term, long-term, PadSplit, whatever we do, you do too, some of it, podcast in the world. And you can tell it's been a while since we've recorded one of these wonderful podcasts. We have people asking, when y'all going to do another one? Well, we're doing another one right now. And thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about a lot of good stuff. Man, I tell you, we've been doing short-term and midterm rentals for a while, and long-term rentals as well. And I would say I like recently, I got two pad splits up and running. And why? Because hey, you always got to challenge yourself, right? So I've been talking a lot about the pad splits on previous episodes. We're talking some about them. I'm learning the ropes still there, and trying to improve my game, trying to improve where I can pass it on to my team so they can do it for me as probably better than me. But so I've had the pad splits going on. Still got a bunch of Airbnbs, still doing a lot of corporate rentals, and I'm still buying houses. So it's a whole mix of things, and I think I guess they call it synergy. It all works together, and yeah, we're here to share and discuss, and hopefully our story helps you guys out. There've been people listening for a while to Live, Let Thrive, and I'm happy to get back in the saddle, as we call it. So yeah, what are we going to talk about first? What do you want to talk about? I can start with this story. I kicked a crazy guy out of my pad split. So my Arlington pad split, I had that one has been doing pretty good for me. Except there was this crazy guy that was I had red flags from the beginning, but I let him in the house because he was the very first guest. I won't call them tenants, but pad mate, whatever. He was the very first one to rent one of the rooms out of the house. And, to fill in the backstory, house in Arlington, I've had that was my very first house I ever bought. And I used to live in it, and then I lived in it with my wife, and then we started hopping into house hacking and getting more houses that way, and turned that one into a rental. It was a long-term rental, so I said, you know what? I've had bad luck with long-term tenants. The first one's kind of ruined the house really bad, and the second one kind of had to evict her out of there. So I've had not so good luck with that house. It's in a C plus neighborhood. It's a nice house, but it's like an older house in a C neighborhood, C plus neighborhood. And so that was what I was going to look forward to if I kept the house, just having more um, C or C-rated tenants, and that's what you get. There's money in the hood, but you got to work for it. And so what I did, I said, you know what? After this last person I evicted, I said I'm gonna turn this, and I started hearing about PadSplit, and I knew about PadSplit from the past, but I said, you know what? I'm gonna try it. I tried in this house. I got my guy Pablo to go over there and tell me and go tell me where I could put up some walls to make two more rooms. It was a 4 bedroom. I'll turn it into a 6 bedroom. That's the key to PadSplit. You're gonna make more income, but you gotta make a couple more rooms in that house. And so they did that. I probably told this story a little bit before. And he was the first one, and I got it finished and everything. And he was the first one to, hey, baby. So my daughter's coming in here. Yeah, fix it. I don't have the inside. Okay, hey, go over there. I'm doing a podcast, okay? I love you. And so he was the first tenant, um, pad mate to move in. And then I did like a Zoom call with him and everything. And he answered without his shirt on. He was just, hey, short answers. One question, hey, so how you doing? How's everything over there? Okay. Just like one word answers wasn't really very engaging. And one thing he told me is, hey, if you're not going to choose me, just deny me so I can get something else. It's like, shit, man. Okay. I was like, it's like he didn't even care, if I chose him or not. And I was like, man, I was racking my brains. I was like, I don't know if I want this guy in here. It's a young dude, around 24 or whatever. He had a good job. I mean, he worked at Amazon. He had a steady job and paid pretty good, paid all right. But I started getting weird vibes from him, right? And so I just, I was telling myself, I don't have anybody in there yet. I gotta let the first person in. I gotta let someone in. I don't know anything about this pad split, but I mean, maybe this is what the pad split demographic is like. Maybe that's what the just young dudes that don't give a darn about about normal protocol. So I was like, all right, I let him in. It was all right when he was there by himself, it was no big deal. But then, people started moving in, and then I filled up the house, and then he started acting crazy. He first the first thing he did was like he kicked through the cabinet underneath the kitchen sink, right? He busted through he kicked through it, and in that same instance, I guess they have like a group message going that only they can see, that a pad mates can see. He's told the group, he goes, quit touching my shit. He said it, he cursed on there. And so I can't see those messages, but later on they told me he said that. And it happened to be the same day he kicked through the cabinet below the sink in the kitchen. And I told him, I called him, I said, what the heck happened, man? I was like, why or did you bust that cabinet? He's like, oh man, I opened it and it fell apart. I'll pay for it, I'll send you $30. And I was like, well, my handyman's gonna fix it. It's gonna cost $50. Okay. And he sent me the $50, but I was like, this is weird, man. Anyways, so another incident happened like about a month or so later. I was looking back at the cameras because I got a call from one of the pad mates in the back room, or in one of the rooms, and she said that her tire was slashed, or it was brand new tire she got, and it was flat. And she said, I don't think I hit anything in there, and just happened at night and this and that. And I saw that, on the camera. I saw the ring camera. I saw that dude out there that same night. I mean, but the way the camera was positioned, I couldn't see where her car was. I mean, I could see it, but I couldn't tell if anybody was around it. And the ring cameras at night aren't too good. So I couldn't say that it was him when we had a suspicion it was him because he was acting weird. And so that night he walked in the house and you just see the door wham slam like hard. Like, so when someone slams a door, the front door of the house, and it just goes right back open. It doesn't even latch, it slammed it that dang hard. And so I started messaging him like the next day, what's going on? Why are you slamming the door like that? You can't be slamming the door like that. People are complaining. They said they heard a loud bang and all this stuff. And he didn't answer me. He wasn't answering me at all. So, as my life is super busy, because I'm always looking to buy houses, I got all these Airbnbs, I got this corporate rentals, I got all this stuff going on everywhere. I really didn't address it. I just like this dude's weird, man. And I couldn't prove that he slashed her tire. Then when they fixed the tire, you could tell they drew where the cut. There was like two cuts in it, like a knife cut it. And so, anyways, he did that. I mean, I think, yeah, pretty much can say he did that. Um, so like about a few days later, I see him walk inside the front door, through the camera. And then the way the camera's positioned is sideways facing, so you can see the side, you can see the front door, you can see the front door, and you see him go in, and all of a sudden, like right away, you hear, boom, boom, whoosh, and you just see like the glass bust out from one of the small windows. Some doors have these small glass windows you can look out, right? And he busted one of those out, like somebody. Well, they told me, hey man, the next day, I didn't see it live, but they said, hey, this guy, or they said there's glass all over the front, and there's like one of the windows is missing. out of that door. And so I looked at the cameras and I was like, that was him. What the hell's going on with this guy? He's a weirdo. And so I messaged him right away. I was like, dude, I got you on camera doing busting out the window. I said, I want you to put in your notice and get the heck out of my house. And I put it through the PadSplit ad and everything. And I told PadSplit all everything that was happening and he put in a transfer right away. He says, "Oh, cool. I dodged a bullet. I don't gotta freaking try to evict somebody." And but then one of the pad mates, she put a bad review on him. Like, this guy gives me the creeps. I don't feel comfortable with him around, this and that. So whoever accepted his transfer canceled their transfer right away. And you go back to the way that long term landlords, you know, their main goal is to get a crazy person out of their house, and they're not always honest with the person that's leaving their house, right? So you call up a landlord, they're having issues with somebody, and you kind of have to dig deep and try to get some real answers from them. You can't just because they're gonna probably, oh yeah, they're a good tenant, they pay rent, blah, blah, blah. They're even though they're just the worst tenant ever, they just want them out of their house. So they don't got to evict them, right? So, anyways, not that I was trying to do that, but I was just happy he was transferring. And PadSplit, you don't get to ask the previous landlord. That might be a thing. That might be a thing they can start doing. Asking having the share information from the previous. You can call the previous landlord and talk to them. That would be a good idea, just like a long-term tenants do. But they don't have that functionality right now. Anyway, she left a review like that, and so he tried to transfer like a couple times, like the next 2 days, and it kept getting canceled, kept getting canceled. And then he's like, he didn't try to transfer no more. I was like, dude, you still got to get out of my house. I don't know what you're doing. And he says, well, PadSplit says if you put a notice to vacate, I get 14 days to move. And I was like, well, this ain't pass. I mean, that's their policy. My policy is notice to vacate through the courts. And so I'm gonna go post one of those, and then so I printed all that crap out, the notice to vacate, signed it, and took pictures and posted it on the inside of the door to the house. And I was gonna post one on his door where he was staying. And I walked to the living room, and there he was sitting there, and he gets up all nervous, right? He's like, "Oh, hey man, yeah, yeah, I just can I stay until blah blah blah." I think he named like I don't know, 5 or 6 days in the future. And I was like, "Well, are you gonna leave that day, or what?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll be leaving that day." And then I was like, "Well, I'll put the 3 day notice of transfer. So if you stay into a few more days after that, that's fine. But it's there, and if not, I'm out to evict. I'm gonna evict you." Okay. And I had the copy in my hand. Is that it? I said, "Yeah." He grabbed it. I was like, "Let me ask you something. Why did you bust that glass out of the door?" And he didn't even look at me in the eyes. He's like, "Oh, just one of those things." I was like, well, you can't be doing that, man. It's like you got other pad mates here. They're freaking out. You can't be acting like that. And he just didn't say nothing and walked back to his room. So, all right, cool. This guy's gonna be gone, and within a week, whatever. And so it was either the next day or 2 days later. I get a call from one of the guys at pad mates there. A real cool guy, I chatted with him. He's a real super cool guy, laid back. And but he was fired up. I mean, I got a call like at 7 in the morning, and I was at my day job, right? And he's like, "Hey, Steve, man, this crazy mofo, this and that." And then he turned pretty ghetto, pretty street really quick, man. He goes, "I'm gonna F this dude up." He goes, "If he what he did," I said, "What'd he do, man?" He's like, "He went into my door and he just pounded it real hard and it popped open." And I come out, "What the hell, man?" He's like, "I did that." That was his response. He goes, "This crazy mofo." He goes, "Man," he goes, I told him off, and you can't, you do that shit. I'm gonna do some stuff." And so Dad said, "Don't do nothing crazy, man. Let me get him out of there. Let me get him out of there." I called PadSplit. I was like, "Man, this 14-day notice to vacate that y'all do is not gonna work. Y'all need to cancel him now and get him out of my house." So I'm gonna get him out of my house, and so it got escalated and escalated. That's one thing they're not too good at yet, PadSplit. I'll tell you that. They're not, when you have situations, they're not very good at helping at all. It's pretty much on you to get someone out of your house. And so anyways, so I told that dude off. I was like, man, I'm gonna, you need to get out of the house immediately. Blah blah blah. And he like, well, can I just? Oh, they canceled him off. Yeah, they kicked him off PadSplit. So, because he was all, well, PadSplit said this, PadSplit said that. He goes, well, PadSplit tells me to leave, I'll leave. I was like, well, they pretty much told you to leave because they canceled your damn PadSplit account. And so he gets out. He's gonna get off work that night. He sends me a message. What happened? And it was like, dude, you know what happened? I say, you got to get out of my house immediately. He's like, well, can I spend one more night and I'll leave in the morning? I was like, all right, fine. You better be there out of there in the morning. I'm gonna be there in the morning. And so, sure enough, he left that morning and he's gone. And I went there on my lunch break from my day job and I cleaned out that room. Of course, there's a hole. There was a hole in the wall where he kicked through and like towards the bottom. And but that was it. I was afraid that he just destroyed the room, but he was it didn't. Aside from that hole in the wall where it looked like his foot went through, that was it. He just had some weird anger issues, man. And so up to me to get him out of my house. And that's the thing with this is a long story, but I have the meeting ran over. Oh, Micah's texting. No worries, I'll wrap this one up and we can do one tomorrow. So anyways, yeah, Micah can't join us today, and that's fine. Things happen. But what's gonna happen is with this with what's what the pain points of doing something like this is that I'm back in the trenches whereas my Airbnb and corporate rentals, they run themselves, right? So I got my team and helped build the team out and it's great. It runs itself pretty much. I'm only brought in if there's something really crazy happening, for example. But if there's nothing crazy going on and everything's running smooth, my team's handling everything, and I love it. And now I'm learning something new. I'm learning this PadSplit stuff, and I'm back in the trenches doing it myself and stressing myself and trying to figure out situations myself. And that's part of growth, man. And once I get it all figured out and written down and have some, what is it called? Yeah, have your contingency plans and all that stuff. Then I could pass it on to my team, and they're already helping. They're like co-hosts on my pad splits, and so when someone reaches out, they'll answer them as best they can. They'll even send out because you can put maintenance requests inside a pad split, so they'll even send out one of my handyman to go address something. That's cool, but like situations where it gets crazy, where you get people that shouldn't that you need to get out of there, that's a whole nother story. So it's a learning thing, but it's cool. I mean, both houses are pretty profitable because of it, right? And because I did another house and here close by that I turned it in from a 3 bedroom to a 6 bedroom, same thing. And so regular rent would be around 1,900, 2,000 bucks a month. Right now rents have dropped, house prices have dropped, everything's dropping pretty good. Um, but on PadSplit, you can make around like 4 grand or so on that same house. And so it's worth it. You make double, but it's more work. It's ain't nothing free in life, right? So that was the story with my crazy guy that I got kicked out of the PadSplit, and I don't want to just talk full PadSplit on here. I will say one thing. You're dealing with a different demographic, and let's say, for example, I there's this guy that put in to book the last room in my PadSplit over here by me, and decent job, been there for a while, makes decent money. It's just him. He said, got no kids or nothing. 42 years old, so he's older. He's not all acting dumb and crazy like a youngster, and he don't have a car at the moment, but I guess he Ubers back and forth to work. But everything seemed good, and then I noticed he had a profile picture, so I opened up the profile picture, and he just sitting in his car with a hat on. Now I zoomed in and made the picture bigger, and you could see the top of a weed leaf on top of the hat. So, so to me, I was automatically thinking, okay, this guy, trying to book my place, and he doesn't even think to put for his profile picture for PadSplit. He's wearing a weed hat. I'm like, that's yeah. I mean, that's just to me, I think it's I guess I take for granted that most people, like let's say for a job interview, or going to get an apartment or going to rent something from somebody, you're not gonna wear your weed hat at that moment, right? You're not gonna go into a job interview with the weed hat on, a marijuana leaf on it. And I don't mind people doing that stuff. That's fine. I don't want it in my pad splits, but I mean if you want to go off and hang out with your buddies and do that stuff, okay, whatever, you know. Um, but but at least don't even have to put a nice clothes on. Just the bare minimum is for anything you want to do in life. Don't wear a weed hat. And I used to partake in the past, and I didn't advertise it. I was like, to me, I thought that was the stupidest thing ever. 'Cause I didn't want no cop pulling me or over or stopping me for anything. And I'm out there with the weed hat on. It's like a damn target on my ass, right? So I never understood that people want to wear weed clothing. It's just funny to me. I actually called him, talked to him, cool guy, and he just laid back dude. I asked him about the hat. He's oh yeah man, sorry, you would take our profile. It has us do a live profile picture how we're whatever we're at that moment, and I was in my car and I took a picture. I just happened to have that. It was just a hat. He goes, I don't do that stuff anymore, and this and that. We'll see. But he was real honest. He goes, I do. He goes, he smokes some menthol cigarettes. He said, and but he doesn't do it in the house. And yeah, he just said he just laid back. He just stays in his room. He plays like video games and stuff. And yeah, he seemed like a cool guy. He wasn't trying. It didn't feel like he was lying to me about anything. But like I said, time will tell. The weed hat did give me some reservations, but I'm just saying, please, if you're out there listening, don't wear a weed hat around. Um, even if you love weed. Oh man. So I'm just talking about PadSplit. Let me see. Looking at, yeah, I'm looking at buying houses right now, and I've always been looking to buy houses. But what's cool about knowing different ways to rent out your houses, be it with short-term rentals, Airbnb, or if you know how to do corporate, even long-term, even just regular long-term rentals, um, or you have a new tool in your belt, like I have a new tool in my tool belt, the PadSplit. So where I can see a house that, like for example, nobody, it's like sitting on the market for a while, and like I said, it might be in a C class neighborhood where people really don't want to be, like especially they have kids, they don't want to be in that area, they don't want to be in those schools, but the price is good and house is in decent shape and pretty good shape. If I see something like that and I'm like, well, it won't make what I want as a long-term rental, right? It'll probably break even if that, and then plus you're putting C class tenants in there, whatever. Um, Not worth the headache, but and it won't work as a corporate. Then I'll be like, well, I can pad split it. I can add some walls and do a pad split there, and it can make me some good income. Where or there's a house in a nice neighborhood, but the price point is pretty high, and if I bought it, I wouldn't get the long term rent that I would want, but it would make a great corporate rental, right? Corporate Airbnb rental, so I could buy it with that in mind. A house with a pool that one would make a great short-term rental, right? Because you get more money for houses with a pool on Airbnb. So it's cool to be able to see different properties, and then and you have different ways that you could make money from those properties. And what's even cooler is like I have my agent send me houses that are seller finance, that people are offering seller finance or owner finance. And I've even had I bought three houses this year. I bought one just like a DSCR loan, business type loan. And I bought two with they were doing seller finance, and one or both of the people selling the house were like, well, if we sell it to him we sell it to your client at this price, it's not, and he's an investor, it's not really gonna it's not gonna make that much as a long-term rental. It might not cover the whole mortgage, right? And of course, what I love about buying seller finance is, we can come to terms on the terms, as they say. Um, so so with that said, I could, like, let's say they want 20%. Most of them say they want 20% down. They come at it like a bank comes at you, right? They want 20% down, and they want whatever close to the current rate. Well, some of them are they're trying to knock your head off. Some of them say 8, 9, 10%. But, some of them a little lower, but all that's negotiable. You don't have to go by those terms, whereas a bank, these are the terms, 20% and whatever the going interest rates are right now, and then plus your credit, right? Whereas you're dealing with the individual that owns the house, it's not really, I mean, they might check your credit, but they're not going to knock you on it as long as you have decent credit. And they're not even looking at the debt to income ratio like a bank would, right? So you can go and negotiate the terms. You could say, I'm gonna put I know you want 20,000, but I can put 10,000, you know what I'm saying? Or you want 20%, I could put 5%. And then he meets somewhere at a price, all right, I could do 10,000. Like I got one for like 6% down. I bought a house for 6% down. And I turned that one into corporate slash Airbnb. And I think that guy was like, well, yeah, it's not gonna. And I just worried that he's not gonna be able to make the payments because of because as a long term rental, it won't make what the mortgage would be. Well, and then my agent explains to him, well, he does short term and mid term rentals. He does corporate rentals. He makes about 4 or 5 grand a month on a good corporate rental, and that's what he sees for this house. And then, okay, back and forth, and they agree, and we agree. Go to the title company, like you sign just a few, like a little bitty stack of papers, as opposed to buying from a bank. You sign like a whole Bible's worth of papers, and then you got PMIs, and you got all kinds of craziness. Whereas you're buying from an individual, it's a lot less, right? A lot easier. You agree on terms. You still want to do inspection and all that stuff, and they got to do repairs, or they got to take money off the price, and it's just like buying a house. And then and I was able to buy two, like in that within a 1 or 2 month span. And so I bought three houses this year, and I plan to do cross segregation studies on them so I can um, knock down my taxes or get money back, actually. And so that's my that is what I'm doing. What so I and that was my whole point, was being able to buy houses in different ways that you can do different things with. And so that's another thing. So I'm looking to buy, and I'm doing some cash out refis right now, and because I have decent size equity in my houses that I've had for a while, and so I want to utilize that equity. To me, and I think Micah believes the same, um I can utilize the equity to purchase another property. And that property is going to make more income than what the difference is between like, let's say I cash out refi and my payment was $1,500 a month for a house, and it goes up to $1,800 a month because I cashed out, I pulled some money out, and then I refinanced it on a 30-year note, and my payment went up. Let's just say $200 or $300. I want to make, but I can get a house. I see a house where I know I can make like $1,000 a month more on. So with that equity that was just sitting there, not really doing anything. People refer to it as dead equity. It's cool to have. Okay, cool. But if you could pull it out of that house and purchase another house with that equity, and that house is going to cash flow and make you $1,000 or more. So that's if it made just $1,000 a month, profit. That's $700 difference in the positive. Plus, you got a house out of it. That's pretty cool. And so, as cash flow wise, it's more money, and then you get, of course, another house, which you add when you're building your wealth, and then you get more. You get to write off the advanced depreciation and take all that money off of what you were going to pay in taxes, and yeah, you get all that fun stuff. And so I'm looking at two houses right now, and they're so different. One of them's a house with a pool with a little playground out back. It's a nicer, nice neighborhood that could do a good as a corporate and short-term rental. People wouldn't mind staying in that neighborhood, and short-term rentals is allowed in that neighborhood. And then there's another house that where short-term rentals aren't allowed, but it's a nice house in a decent area, maybe C plus area, and which is perfect for a pad split. And it's a big house, so I can turn this house. I think it's a 4 bedroom. I believe I could turn it into a 7 bedroom pretty easily. So I'm looking at getting that house, and that's an owner finance house. So I think I only have to put 20 grand down on that house, and the house is like 315 grand. So that's a lot less than 20% down, right? Because 20% of 315, I mean, with all the fees and everything, you're talking about $70,000, right? After all the closing costs and everything. But if I'm only putting 20 grand, so I'm saving $50,000, right, to buy this house, and I can make it into a pad split, so it'll hit the marks that I'm wanting to hit. So I'm looking to pull the cash out of two of my houses, or a house and a condo, right? And a condo I got super cheap. That's another story. I probably told that one before, but I have great renters there. They've been there forever. So I'm pulling money out of that condo that I've had for a while, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath condo, in the hood. And, and I'm pulling money out of, the second house that I turned into a pad split. I'm pulling money out of that. And I should be able to buy two more houses with that money and then still have some money left over, which I wanted to just put into reserves to have some money there. So that's where I'm going with that. Um, I don't ever want to count the chickens before they hatch. So, but I'll say this: I own 10 houses right now, and that's pretty cool. Um, I've been doing this for probably 10 years, and then my whole goal when I started all this was to buy one house a year and just do it that way. And so pretty much I got one house a year. Now I got like 50 Airbnbs that I take care of that I manage and for other people, plus we arbitrage ourselves. So those are cash flowing entities as well. And that kind of sidetracked me from being just a pure purchaser of houses. But the fact that I got this to the same spot with the amount of houses I wanted, plus I got a lot of income coming in from the Airbnb and corporate rental side and arbitrage side. That's another thing. That's another story. So that so so if I do this, I'm pulling the cash out and I buy these two houses, that'll be 12 houses. That means I would have bought three houses, five houses this year. I already bought three. So that'll be five houses this year. And, luckily we got that bonus depreciation this year. So it'll be a lot of money to write off on taxes and get back on taxes to use to purchase the next houses next year. So and they talk about compounding, right? So if I've compounded this much, I got stagnant at around 9 houses for a while, like over a year, maybe 2 years. I was just stuck, right? But all of a sudden, I bought three houses this year, and I might buy two more, so that'll be five houses this year. I just picture next year buying 10 houses. And the compounding effect, because more revenue is going to come in, and I can stack more cash, and I can find more deals, and I can find more off-market deals and owner finance deals or subject to. And then I said, well, now I know the formula. I bought five this year using that formula. I can buy 10 next year. And DSCR, that's the thing. I'll buy one of these houses coming up, DSCR, and the other one I'll buy seller finance. So it's an exciting time. It's cool. I love I do love this real estate thing. Um and what I'll tell you what I've been listening to lately is a podcast called The Founders, right? It's all about people have founded companies. The Steve Jobs, the Jeff Bezos, and then other guys that I never heard of, but they founded amazing companies. I mean, I've heard of Ferrari, and I read about Enzo Ferrari and what the company he started. And he has there's funny because like there's a bunch of these guys that are just maniacal, right? They just their company is their baby. They just because I can understand it because a lot of these guys came from nothing, came from poverty. Like Enzo Ferrari, he came from poverty, had nothing, and then he built this amazing company, and he made these amazing cars. And he wasn't an engineer, he wasn't a car builder, but he learned all the ropes, and he just obsessed with excellence and obsessed with making amazing cars. And just it wasn't even work for him. He just wanted to live at the factory and just do that all the time, and it just compounded, and he grew into this amazing car company. Lots of ups and downs, but he was so obsessed with the company that it didn't. Most people they fail once. Let's just be honest. Most people fail once at something, they give up, right? Or they fail twice at it or three times, they're done. But these founders of these companies, they fail like 100 times or 200 times. That's they just keep failing and keep learning, failing and learning, and they just stick to it. And so his was a great podcast to hear about how he did it. And there was another Italian eyeglass frame maker that was also obsessive. He was an orphan. He was an orphan when he was young. His dad died when he was young, and his mom dropped him off at the orphanage. And he became a multi-billionaire. And he just had this relentless passion and his thing was perfection too. He wanted to make the perfect lenses. I'm sorry, frames for your glasses. And then, he got a lot of buyers, and he ended up buying out the buyers, and he ended up growing his company, and then he ended up like go posted on the stock exchange. He started making glasses for everybody, posted on the stock exchange, and I'll find his name too while I'm jabbering on. But he the US stock exchange at that. And he became a billionaire, and then he bought the parent company to Lens Crafters. Y'all have all heard of Lens Crafters, a place where you go buy reading glasses or seeing glasses, what contacts, all that stuff. And he ended up buying them, even though they were worth five times what his company was worth. But he was able to get it done. He was just relentless, and he figured out a way to always get things done, man. And that's just inspired. I mean, this podcast is just changing my life. And I'll pull up his name as I stammer on. For this Ferrari. Okay, the orphan who built an empire. Leonardo Del Vecchio, Vecchio. The founder of Luxottica, Luxottica. So yeah, go check out the Founders podcast. I mean, I love these podcasts. They're way better than my podcast. but but this guy, like the guy that does this podcast, he's obsessed learning everything about the great founders of the great companies in the world. And he'll read like he's read 1,000 books on these guys. 1,000, not on one guy, but like 1,000 books on all these founders, because he has a buttload of episodes. He's 404 episodes so far. So I think that's what it has. Anyway, so he's read 1,000 books on all these guys. He does other shows too, but Founders. I mean, I haven't dove into his other shows. He's interviewed some of these CEOs. I just love because he tells the whole story, man. He'll read several books and he'll piece together a whole story on these guys. And I've read a few founders. I've read the Steve Jobs book. That guy's crazy. He was crazy, rest in peace. And who else did I? Man, I don't know. I've read a few, but yeah, there's a common thread. A lot of these guys are just obsessed. They're just obsessed with winning and obsessed with perfection and driving and driving people crazy, but getting the most they can out of their teams that they work with, and they have a great eye for talent. And you can't do it by yourself, but you go and get the best talent from the other companies, and you get the best. A lot of them are obsessed with the best technology. You get the best technologies, you get the best people, and you build the best things. It's simple, but it's hard. So that's another thing I'm obsessed with right now is the founders, and I think I've talked about just two things on my list that I was going to talk about the PadSplit stuff. Um, I hear the and I have buddies that bring it up. Oh, the Fed's going to cut rates, this and that. And when you get to a point where you're investing because if your numbers work or not, you don't even care about what the Fed's going to do. It's such a thing that people talk about, but I really don't care. Especially I'm doing owner finance. I don't give a darn if they raise rates or lower rates because I'm going to negotiate with that person to get the rate that I want anyways, right? So that's to me that's a moot point. Um, yeah, I was going to talk about some things with Micah about the sports world. I, and Micah loves to talk about basketball. So we talk about this. I'll talk about something about we talk about failure breeds success, right? And I'll tell you this. There's a basketball team. I don't know how well everybody that listens to this podcast is versed on basketball, but there's a basketball team here in Texas called the San Antonio Spurs, and they've won a buttload of championships, right? What, 5 or 6 championships? I don't know. And it's considered a small market, right? San Antonio is one of the biggest tourist cities in the world, but it's not Dallas, it's not New York, it's not LA. It's a smaller market for sports and everything. And but anyways, they love their Spurs and they have one of the greatest coaches of all time. He's pretty retired right now, Greg Popovich. But what happens? I mean, they won these championships, but they'll have a year where they just suck, right? They just, they say they got some key injuries and they call it rebuilding years. They just tank. They just lose a butt ton of games. And in the NBA, if you're one of the worst teams, you get like a high draft pick. They do like a lottery system where you get like let's say I don't want to go into it, but let's just say you get a bunch of lottery balls if you're a really crappy team, so you have a higher chance of getting the number one pick. And so they've been lucky over the years to one year they will tank really bad, they will suck really bad, and they will get the number one overall pick. And they picked up Jesus. They picked up this is like in the 90s. Oh man. Tim Duncan. And so they already had some great players, and when Tim Duncan joined the team, they ended up winning multiple championships, right? And they were able to build a team, but with some great European players as well. And and so they had a bad year a couple years ago. And what happened again? They got the first pick again. And so let's say the failure of having a bad year where you're losing almost every game led to them getting the number one overall pick. And they pick a guy named Wimby, Wemby. I think his name's longer than that, but I just know Wimby. He's like a 7'5" tall dude from France, of all places. Real skinny and lanky, but he can ball. Um, they had a they didn't make the playoffs last year. He was his first year, but he showed a lot of signs of promise. He showed like he was pretty good. Um, this year, I've just watched him, and he's been like literally unstoppable. I mean, they can't stop him because he can dunk, he can go inside. Of course, he's seven something. He can just barely hop up and he dunks, right? And then he can get every rebound. He can block shots. And then he can shoot 3 pointers, step back 3 pointers, man. He's just like unstoppable beast. But they got him because they a failure. And so whenever you encounter failures, and I've encountered so many freaking failures, um there's always a benefit to it. There's always, you learn something or something better comes your way, right? And so that's what I was gonna bring up with Micah. I was like, the Spurs, they've been really good for a lot of years, but they'll have an off year, but then it'll lead to something even better. So don't be afraid to swing for the fences and fail because you'll learn something and you'll be stronger for it and your business will be stronger for it. So that was the basketball take I was going to do with Mike. When he gets back on the show, I'll bring it up again. Another thing I was going to bring up is the World Cup's coming here to Arlington, Texas, um, where they banned Airbnb out of 99% of the houses in the city. But if you're in that 1 mile bubble around the stadiums, you get to do Airbnb out of a house. Now, I'm looking, I have Airbnbs in Grand Prairie, in Dallas, and Fort Worth. So people I think they're going to do really good for that. That it's going to be about a month of soccer going on here, and the World Cup is the biggest sporting event on the planet, right? It's like a bunch of what they say, 100 Super Bowls or whatever. But it is. I'm excited for it to come to town, and we're all excited. People here are excited to rent their houses out, right? And make some money for the World Cup. I hear people, oh man, maybe I'm gonna get an Airbnb for the World Cup. I'm like, okay, that's cool. You make the good money for that 1 month, but what about the other 12 months on that lease? You're gonna what are you gonna do with that? You better make sure it's a good Airbnb for the whole year, not just 1 month. So I'm cautious because I'm like, well, hopefully people just don't load up and turn everything into Airbnbs and then it's oversaturated and then nobody makes no money, right? You get nothing but vacancies. Um, so if I'm gonna get another Airbnb just for the World Cup, I'm gonna make sure it's gonna be a nice Airbnb that's gonna cash flow all year round, and that's a cherry on top. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm not looking at it getting it just for one event, and then the rest of the months it sucks. But I did run it by I did run this by my wife, and I'm still working on her. I said, okay, what about our house? We're not too far from the stadium. We're right down, a few back roads away from the stadiums. Um, what about first? I worded it like this because I'm doing like it's an art of negotiations, right? I said, how about how would it sound? How does it sound? Let's go on to go on take the kids on a Disney cruise. I know they're expensive, but that would be a cool thing, right? She's like, Disney cruise, but I think she sees right through me. What's he thinking here? What's the angle? And so I said, how about, yeah, yeah, we can do it. We can do a Disney cruise next year. It'd be great. Go in the summertime. It'd be cool. And they'd love it. Okay, well, how are we gonna do that? I was like, oh, easy. We'll just rent this house that we live in out on for the World Cup. And we'll make, enough money on this big 2-story house with a swimming pool, big backyard. We'll make enough money renting this house out for that month of the World Cup. It'll pay for our Disney cruise and then some. And so, because I looked at it, like getting a Disney cruise, what about 5, 6 grand for all of us? Plus you got to pay for all the other stuff. I'm sure nothing's free on the boat. I mean, you get free food, but if you want to have a drink or excursions and stuff like that's gonna add up. But anyways, so that was my angle. There's always a way, right? So I was telling my wife that, well, come on, we'll just rent it out for this month. We'll put all of our valuables somewhere else. We'll just make it just for Airbnb this house. It's 5 bedrooms and stuff. I'm not bragging, by the way. I got a great deal on this house when the market was way down, so I'm not bragging. And I still got to do something to pretty it up. I've been doing so much renovations on my rental properties that it's time to start doing some renovations on my own house. So that's coming up soon. Um, Perfect time for it for the World Cup, right? So So that's my advice to you. If you're looking to just load up on a bunch of, get a whole bunch of apartments and try to rent them out for the World Cup, good luck with that because that's 1 month. What do you do with the other 11 months, right? So, anyways, that's talk to Micah about some World Cup action. It's gonna be fun. Um, yeah, I think. Oh, one other thing. We bought our very first brand new car. First brand new car I've ever bought in my life. And I've always been, I guess, frugal in life, even to this point where thank God that I could afford something like that. I just held out. I've always bought used cars, and I was like, man, no, as soon as you drive off the lot, it drops in 20%. It drops value 20%. He goes, it's a liability, and I always thought that way. But I was like, you know what, we're doing all right. I'm gonna get my wife a new car. Got us a Ford Expedition, active, I think it's called. Got the 3 rows, and got all the bells and whistles. Are pretty cool, and it's got this cool like smoky blue color. I don't know. It's like a Arctic blue. I don't know. It's a cool color. It's one of those cool colors they got out nowadays. And so it's pretty neat, man. It's got computers everywhere, like giant computer screen in the middle, got a computer screen in front. It's like, man, this thing is high tech. I've never seen nothing like this. And it drives itself. Literally, you can let go of the steering wheel, take your feet off the thing, and it'll drive itself. Of course, it'll start beeping to put your damn hands back on the wheel, which that sucks. But I'd like to just let it do the driving all by itself. And but it's like, yeah, it's a pretty cool thing, pretty cool feeling. First new car I've ever bought in my life, and that we've ever bought. And so yeah, just thought I'd throw that in there. I don't like I hardly get on Facebook anymore. Just, I mean, I'll get on there to like a marketplace. I'll get on marketplace for stuff, and then I'll get in there to try to like dig up dirt on like potential tenants and pad baits and all that crap. Um, or an Airbnb person with a unique name, and I'm not, and I'll go look them up on on Facebook to see, hey, wild house party at this Airbnb in Arlington. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what they plan to do. I use it as a tool to look up stuff. I don't get on there if when once you get on the front page, you'll scroll and it's all politics, all this and that, all crazy, and people bitching at each other. It's all just a bunch of wasted time to me. But anyways, and so I don't get on that stuff really at all. Instagram, I don't get on there no more. But like I said, I just so I ain't trying to brag. I don't people put on their stuff that they're proud of. Okay, that's cool. But I wasn't gonna do no post or nothing. But I talk to you guys. I'm just it all kind of goes together. Y'all have seen the stuff me and Micah Hug going through to build what we got that we built. And so yeah, I guess that's the moral to the story. It's not it's not bad to reward yourself every now and then, especially if you're putting tons of hours into this stuff. And all that midnight calls, everything that's gone on. It's just it's good to reward yourself. It feels good to like, wow, this is a little milestone. So, anyways, I think I've rambled enough. It was a fun little podcast. Ain't done one in a while. Where could people find us, Micah Man? And Micah's not here, so I'll just say it. LiveLetThrive.com. I think it's still up. You can send us a message at liveletthrive@gmail.com. That's still up, our Gmail. So liveletthrive@gmail.com. We will answer the messages. Just a shout out, say what's up, Steve, what's up, Micah, and we'll chat with you. Tell us what's going on with your business, what's with your life. We're always here to chat. So thank y'all for listening, and we'll talk to you on the next episode with me and Micah. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Live, Let, Thrive. Be sure to tune in next week for all the latest in the world of Airbnb and all that entails. Bye-bye.